Heal, where we will talk about all things mental health and holistic wellness in a very transparent and culturally competent space. Happy Juneteenth, by the way. For today, I wanted to talk about survivor's guilt, and I don't really have a rhyme or reason of why I wanted to discuss this topic. I know it was something that was on my mind earlier in the day, and even when I was thinking about Juneteenth, I was thinking about, just the evolution and success of a lot of our peers and just how much we've evolved and just contribute so much to culture, society, and to the world as a whole. And I love to see it, right? Like, I love to celebrate us. And I think about the survivor's guilt that comes with that. And before I actually press record, I started thinking about how well capitalism and poverty has created a very divisive community within the Black community in such a way that that's kind of why it's hard to organize, in a sense of, again, I think there are psychological impacts. No, there is no I think. I know there are psychological impacts of poverty. And so when I keep that in mind, and when I think about the impacts of survivor's guilt, of those who have found their way outside of poverty and have succeeded and excelled in their careers, profession, education, whatever the case, however they've left that situation, there's still guilt that comes with that. There's still inner shame or imposter syndrome and worthiness and doubt that comes with that. And it's not to say, oh, woe is me, I'm successful, feel sorry for me while people are still struggling. And that's not the case at all. It's a matter of how hard it is to connect back with your community once you have made a certain level of success, and how again, capitalism and oppression has created the divisiveness where you either glorify or you judge or count in people's pockets, or you feel entitled to, or you want to help everybody. And there's just all these complexes that come with being the one that made it out, right? You wanting to give back, and how much do you give back? And again, you being observed giving back, and just how much are you doing for your community and for your family? And again, people counting people's wallets on the other side of that. And it's just again, right before I pressed record, I just started thinking about how capitalism really did a successful job of continuing the divisiveness, not just amongst races, but within our own Black communities. And I mean, you see that with celebrities and getting to a certain level of success where people feel like they should be doing more for the Black community, right? Or should be intervening more, should be saying more, should be donating more. And I get it. I understand the hoarding of wealth is nonsensical. But I'm referencing the mindset behind when we see each other succeed or we see each other do well, the expectations we have on each other to do X, Y, and Z. Again, how it creates that dynamic of division. And it was actually a tool, classism was actually a tool, but it made them feel more superior. Just kind of created a class system based on, as long as you feel better than the next person. I brought this up because I wanted to address the stress of it, right? I think whatever your level of stress, whether it's the need to feel like you need to provide for your family versus, some people block their family and gotta hide because they feel like their family is always calling them for something. Whatever your cultural or personal experiences may vary. Everybody's different, but I think, again, the mental stress, I wanted to address the mental stress of being someone who has survived poverty or survived economic hardships, and maybe have been the first generation college student, first generation doctorate student, first generation corporate worker, first generation lawyer, first generation doctor, those come with some heavy weights within your family, within your community, because of the expectations that are placed on you sometimes, or the expectations you place on yourself. And there is no right way to help within our communities in such a way outside of being more communal that is going to work past capitalism and inflation. You know what I mean? I think the system is perfectly designed that as long as we are consumerist, and that's the thing too, is that we have this very hustle mindset in our culture, that even in survivor's guilt, it's like the imposter syndrome is, you're not working hard enough, you're not doing enough, you're not, and myself, you had 2-3 jobs and still feel like you're not doing enough. Again, the mindset that I probably am going to talk about capitalism in every video that has to do with culture, and I can't help it. But I think it has had a large, and we know that poverty has large psychological impact on your functioning and survival and interaction and engagement with people and in interpersonal relationships. And so when you compound all of that, when you recognize all of that, and then you look at the oppression that has been placed in Black and brown communities and the lack of opportunities in Black and brown communities, you're going to see more crime. You're going to see more issues because they don't have resources. And so again, that dynamic creates more tension in the Black community because there's a sense of lack of trust, because it's a sense of lack of community because of those hardships, right? The mental health community is very aware that, personality disorders are typically environmentally developed and adaptations of experiences like trauma and dysfunctional family dynamics. And so when you can recognize it on one hand, and then also recognize the experiences that oppression and discrimination and prejudice and white supremacy has done to the Black and brown community, and then want to say, oh, you guys are criminals, it's like, I'm not accusing a majority of crime on the Black community. That's not it at all. I definitely know that the most incarcerated because it's the most policed. But when it comes to those, those crimes of financial, typically, because they're not gonna chase the blue collar tax thieving, Trump. They're not going to look at that as crime and look at them as criminals. They're just gonna look at the kid that stole from the store because he needed, milk for the house. Those are the types of things you're going to put people, and that's what I'm worried about. Kind of why I was thinking about this earlier, is that you back people into a corner, and we're seeing the economy, inflation go up. You're seeing the lack of opportunity for jobs. You push people in a corner, and then you expect them to succeed, and then penalize them when they don't, right? And so again, that survivor's guilt of how do you manage as someone who has made it out of these systems, and then you have a lack of trust within your community because in ways that some of them have had to survive, right? Like I've had families steal from me. I've had things like that, and I'm not saying that to like look down on them or talk badly of them, but it's like when people feel like they don't have a way or have an option, they will survive, right? And so again, poverty and capitalism has successfully created this division within our communities, and I think it impacts our communities more specifically for those very reasons. Because, like I said, if we can't organize, if we can't align, if the divisiveness is flourishing within our communities, then we cannot organize. We can't get on the same page about any movement or, any um, constructive conversations within diversity within our own communities, because we've isolated and alienated certain people that, we don't feel like are black enough or straight enough. We've alienated within our own communities as well, just based on those assumptions of each other, given our different levels of experiences, education, and access to resources, right? And at the end of the day, you walk outside and we're all looked at the same. We're all black. We're all second class citizens. And so there was no rhyme or reason for me bringing that up, but I did want a sense of awareness and conversation about how, again, I just think capitalism is doing its job in creating divisiveness and comparison and envy and jealousy and shame and guilt, um, because favor isn't fair, and not everybody is going to be able to obtain the same level of success or have the opportunities to advance. And so it just makes it even more easier to create tension when we should be looking for inclusion and solutions and gathering and having conversations and bartering and trading services and, things like that that would actually help us economically within our communities, and bring and would promote more community, and we probably wouldn't have to work as hard and work 2-3 jobs. And if we could share living spaces and have communal living, and but I, they have successfully created this division. I think my conversations just always come back to like grace and perspective taking and understanding of the differences of where people are at, and acceptance of where people are at, acknowledging where people are at, even in my privilege, and I earned and bust my ass for anything. I understand in my privilege that, that how I can be perceived, or, not everybody had the same access to resources or opportunities. And so you have no control on how people perceive you, on how they think of you, right? Depending upon what your background is and your family experience, your level of comfort and how you want to provide and give back to your community is your own personal choice. And I'm not necessarily trying to blame a system and just like give the conversation a pass, but I think when you recognize like things for what they are, you don't take things as personal, right? Like, going back to the mistrust that's developed in our families and communities because of manipulation and, adapting and survival, and just, maybe, people fall out over money all the time. I think I got to a point of like accepting that you can't help and save everybody, right? Everybody has their own path and journey to take. At the same time, there's still ways that you can give back to your community and be involved in your community if you are capable. You know what I mean? And so that survivor's guilt of who am I to be here? Am I deserving? Am I smart enough? Am I wise enough? Am I good enough? I'm here to tell you, you are. How you decide to show up in the world is for your own discernment. You have to be comfortable with how you want to distribute your gift. So yeah, I didn't have any rhyme or reason for really bringing it up, or why I decided to talk about it today, but I was thinking about Juneteenth earlier, and I was just reflecting on how just proud I am of us as a culture, how much we've evolved, how much we've contributed to society, just how multifaceted, multi-talented, I love us. I love us down. And so I just hope that there is one day more of a common language, more of a again, I don't think we're monolithic. I don't think everybody will be the same, but I think that once we recognize that this system again is creating a very divisive community within our community, and that we would benefit from being more communal and more um, just thinking more about how our ancestors connected and how much and it didn't take money all the time. It didn't take it just, maybe it took time, maybe it took effort, it took thoughtfulness, it took consideration, just doing more of that and thinking more of each other on that plane of existence than thinking count people wallet and what they should be donating, what they should be, how they should be marching, how they should be doing XYZ. Once we recognize what community looks like and understanding the grace of those that, you know, when people are struggling, help is help. And you know what I mean, like that. And again, that's not always financial. Sometimes it's mental, sometimes it's time. If we can think more in that direction, I think we will do better as a community. And again, recognize the divisiveness that oppression and discrimination and capitalism has created with us. Once we recognize, like, exhaustion and burnout, if you lean on each other more, might be the solution. We just have to develop more trust within our communities, and I think we'll be okay. So thank you again, Healing Fam, for joining me today for the discussion. I know it was probably all over the place, but it's just something I wanted to share this month, and it's something that was on my heart. Make sure to like, share, subscribe. You can go ahead and follow me on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, Threads, all the things at Healing Crown Counseling. And again, you can catch me every Sunday at 8 p.m. live on YouTube for Sound Healing Sundays for our sound bath meditation. And again, thank you, Healing Fam.